What's up, guys? It's so good to see you again here during this crazy COVID time, and it's Saturday night here in Singapore, and it's really rocking in my apartment. Joking. So that is why I thought I'm gonna come on here and hang out with you and answer some of these questions that have been coming in over the last couple of weeks, and I thought, why not start with one that always comes up. People have been asking what it's like being an Angmo here in Singapore and my experiences. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm gonna write a list of like 10 things or experiences that have happened to me since I moved here when I was 18 and how it has colored my womanhood, if you will. So I'm gonna start with something that might take you by surprise. You see, Singapore is known all around the world for being the safest nation on the planet. And I don't doubt that's true. But what is kind of crazy is I was mugged here on the main road, Orchard Road, just behind it actually, in this place called Emerald Hill. And I was about 20, I think, maybe. No, I was 21, sorry. I had just graduated. I'd finished at the gym and I was going to view a new apartment rental, and I'd finished at the gym and I was heading to a dance rehearsal, so I was like in a leotard, and this guy, as I was looking at my phone to check the address, this guy came up behind me and put his hand down deep into my bag and was sort of rustling around and managed to find my wallet. And he grabbed it, but he did not know that I actually am a kung fu fighter in my dreams. And so I proceeded to chase this gentleman down through a forest area, screaming. I hitched my dress up all the way and like battled after him down onto this major expressway called the CTE, and that is when he got away. He was like a real ninja, I tell you. And so I came back up and I was like asking people for witnesses, and then the police arrived, and it's quite an unusual scenario actually, because it's not very common here in Singapore, but it happened to me in the middle of the day in Orchard Road. And then I kid you not, there was like 60 police officers within moments of it happening, and that was quite an experience. And then what proceeded next was just hysterical, because it was like it became the case of who was the guy who stole all of the things off the white girl. And so I had to the police were like in investigation, and they said to me that they wanted me to come down to the station so that they could do a lineup and I could then look at 9 criminals and pick who it was. And they said to me that he is here, and he was not there. I looked at all of them and he was not there. So to this day, the guy who is rocking the beautiful brown leather Mimco wallet, much love to you. I hope it blessed you. And it really taught me that fight or flight is just so real when you're in like such a state or in an emergency, and you're forced to really step up. So yeah, that was my experience of being mugged in the safest country in the world. Okay, my next funny little scenario was I had to get my international driver's license. And here in Singapore, that requires you to like do a certain number of hours and spend time with the driver. I did all of that. I had to do practical tests and all that kind of thing. So my international driver's license was given, and I got in my car and I drove off so excited for such freedom, you know, that I was just a lead foot, and I left from this place in this area called Ubi, and I floored it into the city where I was staying, and went to this shopping center where I was training at the time, at this particular gym. And as I was going in there, there was this police officer just above on one of those walkways. And I kid you not, the first day of having my license, I got such a big fine. I mean, it was just extraordinary. I couldn't believe that that had happened, but I got caught. I learned my lesson. Fortunately, I did not have to go to jail. I am still here to tell you the story of my speeding ticket. So Sheba really sped on her first day of having a license. What a wild, wild woman. Okay, so let's change up the environment a bit. We're not in the car anymore, and we're not getting mugged on Orchard Road, but what about sitting in a restaurant on a first date and ordering the food that requires such an ample amount of cutting? And you know, I think as you process the menu on a first date, it's always like, I'm a relatively easygoing, comfortable kind of person, so I don't really care like about etiquette so much, and like being comfortable is just my vibe. So I had ordered this particular dish and I was struggling so much with cutting it. It was getting to the point where it's uncomfortable now because I couldn't get it apart. And then all of a sudden, not only did it slice through that steak, but it flew off the table onto the next table. And I was like so calm and collected and was like, oh, and then tried to cover it, you know. Obviously, the person on the other side of the table was like, oh. It was all very embarrassing. So that was my first date story of the flying steak. Don't recommend steak on the first date. You can avoid some levels of embarrassment there. Then another good one of my time here in Singapore was when I was studying in university. I had a best friend who I lived with, and we just had the most incredible 3 years together. We really saw the sights and tested the boundaries. However, one night, I think perhaps we had had too much champagne, and we decided that it would be a really amazing idea to get on an overnight train and hit it to KL. At the time, it seemed incredibly wise, and it seemed like we were very adventurous, and you know, we're going to see the world, experience, opportunity, all of this. And we went in our pajamas that we were wearing, and we boarded a train, and it was like a train where you have sleeping quarters where you're stacked. So you each get a bed, and there was 3, like a triple bunk bed, right? And then you have this curtain that you can pull all the way across. That was kind of strange. And then we were like, well, we're up for the challenge. We're here now. We've bought the ticket. So we were the only 2 foreigners on the train in that particular carriage. And all of a sudden, I was sort of dozing off. The curtain opens, and these men all had their faces in this tiny, I'm like this. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Anyway, we survived. We got to KL. I can't remember what we did, and I don't know why we went. What was the impetus? I'm not entirely sure, but we did not come back on the train. That was for sure. I think we must have flown back. But look, we were young and frivolous and just sort of go with the flow. But we had a great time. So it was my reckless trip to KL in the middle of the night. Some other very poignant moments for me living here would be within the industry. This was a project I'd been hired to come and sing for this big major National Day parade, which they have every year here in Singapore. It's a fantastic showcase of all the creativity and the history and the strong history that Singapore has. And so it's a real honor to be able to come and be able to sing the backing tracks for for the National Day Parade, and that included the national anthem and a song, a national cultural song for each race. So I remember the MD handed me the score, and he was like, here you are, good luck. And it was obviously the first bit was in English, and then it went into Mandarin, Tamil, Malay, and it was just that moment of, oh wow, like we're gonna be recording immediately. So I was phonetically trying to write out things, and lo and behold, it actually sounded pretty decent. And it's just sort of a funny story that this Australian girl was the voice of these national songs here in Singapore. I find that pretty crazy, but it was a great experience, and we sort of followed that up with the next years were not so daunting. I had a little bit of experience by then. Speaking of all the cultures that is here, and obviously Singapore is a melting pot of such an array of cultural celebrations and such beauty, and it sort of all comes together in this one little island. And so I have a deep appreciation for that, and having friends that celebrate different occasions and celebrations. I've been able to jump on board and just sort of pretend and learn, and that's been really a fascinating experience for me, going to reunion dinners and then having events like learning about Hari Raya and having friends. And I actually had a partner who back in the day, so I've been able to be sort of surrounded by so many different cultures, and that's been a beautiful part of living here, which I definitely would not have had as much of if I had stayed living in Australia. What else? I have a number 7. Now this one actually came to my attention just a few weeks after getting off the plane and sort of, finding my feet here. I can tell you that a small in an Asian small does not equate to a Western small. In fact, it doesn't do great things to your self-confidence. So ladies, and probably guys, I suggest if you are coming to Asia, don't even go for your regular size. You need to just up it by 2. So if you're a small, just head in for a large, and you will be pleasantly surprised if it's too big. Because I've had so many occasions where you go in and the sales lady's like, hey, let's try and zip that up, and you can't even get it over your hips. So that is my experience with sizing. It's the Asian sizing, a little bit different to what I am used to. What else? Oh, this is a great one, guys. Additional vocabulary. Now, look, Singlish is a thing. It's a language on its own. You can't express stuff and sayings and intention the way that people do here in this amazing country. So there are some words now that have become part of my vocabulary that I never want to lose. Let me give you some examples. So like cannot, aya, walawe, double confirm. There's such strong words, and there is nothing in English that can even come close to those meanings. So I am so grateful for the little bits of Singlish that I've picked up over the years, and I'm all over it. I'm down for it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, if you don't understand me, yeah, whatever. Okay. What else? A great bit about Singapore is it is perfectly acceptable to makan anytime in a 24-hour window. There is no breakfast, lunch, and dinner situation. You can eat at 3 a.m., you can eat at 6 a.m., you can eat at 12. It really doesn't matter. There's food. It's just it's hopping. There's stuff open, there's stuff available. Food is like a love language here. And yeah, I'm all for it. I love it. I mean, you expand and then you sort of come to a realization of, ooh, I need to do something about this. So then you sort of pull it back a little bit. But yeah, the makan all around the clock, so great. And lastly, a big thing that I have seen, you know, through my lens, if you will, my perspective, is there is a huge divide between the expat lifestyle and the local living. And I think once you are able to bridge those two, it's such a beautiful country to be able to live in, and so blessed to call it home. I really have my roots down here, and being here, you know, with people that love and care for me, and it's definitely something that I never thought would happen. But now that I am here, and Satori and I have, you know, these business opportunities here that we're pumping ahead with, it is the only place I can imagine myself being. So that is Singapore. I hope you are gonna come here and hang out and get to know this city a little more, because it is truly fabulous. And I have actually worked on my Kung Fu skills a little bit, so if there's gonna be any, you know, criminal action happening, I'm gonna be there. Like, there'll be no mugging, don't you worry about that. So I hope I've enticed you to come visit. So I hope to see you in Singapore.